On Valentine's Day, 2007, in Los Angeles, California, Arthur and Lois Sarin had no idea that they were about to face every parent's worst nightmare. They had 6 children together, one of which was now 39-year-old Jodine Saren. Jodine had grown up in Walton Hills, Ohio, but the family had relocated to Carlsbad, California years later. She loved making flower arrangements and had a strong passion for animals, owning a cat named Angel and a horse called Sam. She adored horse riding, ice skating, biking, crafts, kayaking, and taking long walks on the beach. Despite her age, Jodine still relied on her parents for a lot of transportation, specifically getting to and from appointments. She was officially diagnosed with schizophrenia, but she was often described as being a sweet, caring girl who always kept a low profile, and that her mental illness wasn't too evident and was barely even noticeable in her behaviour. Jodine had support from the National Alliance for the Mentally Ill and did suffer learning difficulties, but despite this, she helped senior citizens who were stuck inside their home throughout the day and would partake in a walkathon fundraiser every year to help others. Jodine taught us all with her special challenges, perseverance, and love of nature. There was joy in her laughter, love in her heart, and faith in her soul. By the time this tragedy rolled around, she lived in the 1900 La Costa block at Swallow Lane. Jodine was extremely close with both of her parents and would always keep in touch with them, communicating every single day. And because of this, they knew very quickly that something was wrong. Her parents went out for a romantic Valentine's Day dinner and a movie, but as the night progressed, Lois couldn't shake the feeling that something wasn't quite right. They hadn't heard from their daughter since the previous afternoon, which was extremely rare, so they decided to check in on her on their way home. At 10 PM, they knocked on Jodine's door and there was no answer, which was very odd. The lights were on and they were positive that somebody was home. They knocked again, but still no response. Her parents tried to use their spare key, but even more bizarrely, the door was on the latch, and they still couldn't get in. They attempted to call out her name, but there was still no response. With concern growing at an alarming pace, Arthur kicked the door down, and they rushed into her home to find nothing out of the ordinary. Nothing was out of place, the home wasn't ransacked, and everything seemed perfectly normal, but they were unaware that their lives were about to change forever. The couple entered Jodine's bedroom to find her in bed with a man who was partially dressed, having sex. Naturally, Mr. and Mrs. Sarin were embarrassed at the situation, and after asking their daughter and the man to get themselves dressed, they rushed out of the bedroom and waited in the living room for them. This behaviour was very unlike Jodine, so they believed that the man was taking advantage of her mental issues. They waited for quite some time, but nobody emerged from the bedroom. Eventually, they decided to reinvestigate, but once they returned, they discovered that the man was nowhere to be seen and that their daughter was dead. Jodine was ice cold, proving that she was already dead when they walked in the first time. In fact, she had been dead for hours. When they initially walked in, they actually interrupted the murderer having sex with their daughter's dead body. It was concluded that she had been bludgeoned and strangled, but weirdly, there was no forced entry or exit to the home, aside from Jodine's parents kicking down the door. They had waited in a section of the house where they were unable to see the bedroom or front doors. So shockingly, it seems the man was caught performing necrophilia and then simply walked out the front door. Nothing in the house was missing, ruling out a robbery, but unknown male DNA was found at the scene. Unfortunately, it brought no known matches. This led to investigators believing that the man must have known Jodine or had a copy of her key, which possibly means he may have watched her for a while before attacking. Samantha Raymond, a neighbour, testified that she saw a man running down an embankment near the house that night, but unfortunately it was dark and she was unable to see his face. During the very brief encounter with the man, Jodine's father believed that he actually recognised him as being one of his daughter's acquaintances from inside her circle of disabled friends. This friend didn't have a car and could only use public transport or a bicycle, but he was located and even provided a DNA sample, but it didn't match the one found at the scene of the crime. A $52,000 reward was offered to anyone who could provide any information on the case. By 2017, some new technology was able to use the DNA found at the crime scene to determine that the murderer had fair to light skin, green or blue eyes, blonde or brown hair and freckles, was somewhere between 30 to 40 years old, and of Northern European descent. A photo was released, and it was believed it was also a heavy-set, disheveled-looking man with a large stomach, about 5'8" to 6 foot tall. By November the following year, investigators finally found a lead, over a decade later. They believed that the murderer was 42-year-old David Mabrito, but he was already dead. In 2011, Mabrito committed suicide, leaving behind his wife and a son, but no note. His motive for taking his own life remains a mystery. Not a lot of information on the man is available, and it's unclear if he even knew Jodine at the time, but investigators claimed that the likelihood of the murder being carried out by anyone else was 1 in 64 quintillion. His widow and son agreed to provide a DNA sample, and after all this time, they were able to confirm that David Mabrito was in fact guilty of murdering Jodine Saren. We are thankful to provide a resolution of this case to Jodine's family. We never forgot Jodine, and we are grateful to have identified the person responsible for her tragic murder. We are forever grateful to the Carlsbad Police Department for their outstanding efforts in attaining justice through resolution of this tragic case. Despite this, the innocent family of David Mabrito received backlash and death threats online, labelling his widow a monster and accusing her of being involved. But this horrendous and seemingly unprovoked attack still leaves many questions unanswered. Who the man was, why he attacked, and if he and Jodine were some way connected. So unfortunately, all we can do is continue seeking answers. Hello guys, this is Rob from Seeking Answers. I really hope you enjoyed that episode. If you do want to see more, please consider donating to Patreon or clicking that join button below to become a channel member. Unfortunately, YouTube's monetization doesn't really cater to the content that we make, so we do need all the help that we can get. I also realise that not everyone is able to give a monthly payment, so there is now a PayPal link in the description if anyone does want to donate a one-off payment. Doesn't matter the amount, any amount is appreciated. And if you do a one-off payment, you'll be able to request a case for us to cover, and it will really go towards helping the channel out and continuing to grow the community. Any amount is appreciated, and it will go towards keeping this channel alive and making more content, going on location more. You will get perks in exchange, and you will help really give this channel the boost it needs. Thank you for all of your support, and tune in next week for another video.